My 35M wife, 30F, is flirting with her coworker. How am I even supposed to react? I know this is very tame compared to most posts on here, but I legitimately never thought I would be in this position. My wife and I have had a 100% trusting relationship. We both have access to each other's phones, laptops, pretty much everything because we never had anything to hide. I never went searching through any of her stuff and never had any desire to. I'm pretty sure she's never searched through mine, but if she had, there's nothing to find anyway. We've been together 8 years, married 4, and I just want to reiterate, trust and loyalty are basically our foundation, and she has said a few times that if I ever cheat on her, we're over. Fine, not gonna happen anyway. Every other week I work 4 p.m. midnight, and by the time I wrap up and get home it's usually close to 1 a.m. My wife has a number of coworkers that she sometimes goes out with after work, and I've met most of them. I'm glad she can get out and have some fun when I can't be there, knowing she's not cooped up in the house, no kids. She also went out a few times with a male coworker, we'll call him Kyle, he's 34 I think, also married. I was fine with it, they both worked for a while in a department that was basically a sinking ship and liked to chat about it or whatever. She was always honest with telling me who she was with. And like I said, I completely trusted her. Yeah, I know you get it already. Last night I got home from work at my usual 1 a.m. My wife was asleep with her phone in her hand with the screen on. She had fallen asleep in the middle of a text message to Kyle that said, "I could fall asleep listening to your voice." Guess she actually did that and fell asleep pressing the I key. I was a little stunned by this and slipped the phone out of her hand to get a little context. Apparently they had discovered the temporary voice message mode and were toying around with it. I didn't listen to any of them but a text message in there said, "Yeah, and it's nice because these messages delete themselves." That was extremely concerning, so I scrolled up a bit and mixed in with talk about actual work. There were quite a few flirty messages in there coming from both directions. I only looked for about 30 seconds but I didn't see anything sexual. Could be there though, who knows. Naturally I woke my wife up and she didn't even try denying it, as I had clearly seen it. I did give her phone back before looking at any more. She apologized and said she's an idiot and that obviously nothing happened. She said she stopped him a couple times when he was starting to go too far, but if he had the inclination to go too far, then why would she not shut it down completely? And why was she flirting back? She didn't have very good answers, just said she was being stupid and was lonely since I work nights and we barely see each other some weeks. Little bit of context, this event has some unique timing. Today is a huge day at her job. She's been looking forward to, dreading today for months. Lots of things are changing and she's in charge of a lot of it. I genuinely don't want this issue to affect her work, but it already has, given that neither of us got a second of sleep last night after I woke her up. Last night I requested to see the entire conversation, for one because my imagination is running away with this a bit, and I'd like to know if it's worse or not as bad as I'm thinking. If it's just a little flirty, I'm still pretty upset, but I think we can work past it. At first she flat out refused, and I said the logic flows that if she's not sharing the conversation with me, then whatever she's hiding is worse than the fact that she is actually hiding something from me. I told her that if she's not open with this conversation, then I can't begin to build trust back, which is true. She seemed to be actually considering it this morning getting ready for work, but said she can't think about this right now and she has to be completely focused on work today. I conceded to that because like I said, we've been anticipating this day for months. But I'm expecting to see it this evening. Like I said, I never expected to be in this situation and I don't even know how to act. What's the correct degree of response to this? Treat it as relatively harmless flirting and work through it? Elevate to possible therapy or separation? I just don't know. I'm just hurt and confused. Too long did not read. Found a flirty text conversation between my wife and her coworker. Don't know what to do with myself. Update. I think most of you will be disappointed in my actions. A lot of you seem to be out for blood and assuming the worst, calling for me to leave her immediately. While I knew that wasn't going to happen from the start, I actually can imagine my life without her, and it's far worse than life with her, even with this incident contaminating our relationship. To satisfy your curiosity and not waste your time, if you don't care after this, I'll say at the beginning that I will not be seeking divorce and we are pursuing marriage counseling. The deets. She came home and we went for a walk. She agreed to give me her phone but wanted to explain first. I asked her if she had cut contact with him and she said yes, she had gone to his office and told him their flirting had gone too far. I had seen some of the conversation and that she had to prioritize me over everything. I was really only half listening because I didn't want to form opinions based on her words without hard evidence first. Talked about how they just have a fun time chatting with each other and they have a lot in common. Kyle and his wife apparently have 2 cats that are the same type as our 2 cats and they had a lot of fun comparing their personalities and similarities. Whatever. The friendliness and flirtiness slowly over time. She said that a while ago he had expressed feelings for her and she shut him down and said that would never happen. They didn't talk for a few days but eventually through work started chatting again and the flirtiness popped right back up. She said over the past couple weeks she was starting to question how much they talked, and that she talked to him more than anyone else and it was starting to feel weird, but I guess those thoughts hadn't fully formed into a decision to knock it off because obviously it was still ongoing as of 2 nights ago. She finally gave me her phone and lo and behold only the messages from the past day were available. Shocker. She expressed confusion and said that made her feel like an idiot that the messages weren't loading correctly. It's an iPhone, so I went to the edit retrieve deleted messages and there were about 2,400 sitting there. I tried to retrieve them but I guess it was so many that they still weren't loading. I asked for her iPad which was back at the house, except when we got back there turns out she left it at her office. She offered to go get it and I was like, yeah, no, I'm coming with you every step of the way. On the drive there she states that when he confessed his feelings for her he had actually tried to kiss her on the way out of the bar, and that she basically punched him and left right then. At this point I told her she should have told me that immediately. She of course agreed and said she didn't know why she didn't. Retrieved the iPad and the entire conversation is there. I don't think she would have thought to go back and delete extra incriminating ones twice when she thought they were all gone already, so I saw it all. And I read it all 2,400 messages. Obviously started out purely work-related, started getting friendlier, talking about their cats, how him and his wife have very similar names to us. Actually him and I have the same name infuriatingly enough. It's not actually Kyle. I don't want you to think of me like a Kyle, no offense to all the Kyles out there. How they like similar shows and whatnot. The more I read until the very end the more it truly seemed like the scenario where a frog is put in a pot of water that slowly increases temperature and doesn't realize it was boiling. There was absolutely nothing sexual, and from her talk before I saw it, it did seem like she was starting to realize the water was too hot. There were a few messages from her that made my heart clench, and I read those aloud to her and I could just see the shame and anguish on her face. Obviously the point that causes me the most consternation is when he tried to kiss her, she didn't tell me, then eventually started chatting with him again. I'm extremely mad at her. Given that, I think 90% of the emotions I'm feeling are just sadness. I feel like I'm in mourning for the relationship we had for 8 years that ended on July 1, 2025. As I mentioned, we're reaching out to marriage counselors. I can't wait to go because I want to forgive her and I literally don't know how. The fact that she won't show you her phone tells you everything you need to know. If she does decide to show her phone to you, most of those messages will be deleted. If she isn't willing to show you the messages and totally cut him off, she should be offering this, then she has no intention of stopping her inappropriate behavior. To quote a common Reddit trope, time to get your ducks in a row. The fact that she continues to hang out with him and text him, especially that, after saying he went too far, is emotional cheating. I wouldn't be able to trust her after this personally, especially not showing the convo. Unfortunately, it's time to break up unless she goes to therapy and uncovers a reason why she's done that and fixes it permanently, but based on her responses I doubt she'd do that unless you broke up with her. If my husband refused to show me his text, I'd kindly ask him to pack his bags. Because after 15 years we not playing these games. She refused, has to think about it, delete stuff. It's worse than you think. Red card foul. You should have never given the phone back without seeing the whole conversation. Now, if she does let you see it, you'll never know whether or not she deleted any more messages. If her phone is tied to some tablet or laptop that you have access to, I suggest getting on there and seeing what you can find. The fact that she wouldn't let you see the whole conversation means it's way worse than what she's admitted to so far. I'm sorry man, but I think your marriage is cooked. My 27F boyfriend, 31M, is silly and awkward in bed, and it's a huge turn off. I am about to sound so shallow, but I can't hold this in anymore. My 27F boyfriend, 31M, and I have been together for 3 years. I have always had a high sex drive and have felt pretty experienced. At the beginning of our relationship, we had a lot of sex and I felt turned on by him all the time. However, in the 3 years we've been together I have only finished maybe 5 times, the last time being a year ago. About 5 months ago, I started dreading having sex with him. I have always been into rough sex and dirty talk, and it's something that doesn't come natural to him. He makes weird jokes during foreplay and talks in a weird baby voice. He'll meow and make purring noises, and sometimes even burp or fart. It is such a turn off. I have tried to help him and tell him what I like to hear, I just don't know how to tell him to stop meowing and making weird jokes and doing the weird voice. We used to have sex at least 3 times a week, now it's once a month and I am not into it the whole time. As for the not finishing, I have tried to talk to him about that too but it doesn't really go anywhere. He tries his best to make me finish, but it always ends up hurting or turning me off. My question is, how do I turn this around? I love my boyfriend so much and he is such a good guy. I want my sex life back and to feel turned on by him. How do I tell him that I don't like the voices, the weird jokes, meowing, etc.? I'm starting to worry my sexual attraction for him doesn't exist anymore. Too long did not read. My 27F boyfriend, 31M, makes weird jokes, meows, purrs, and talks in a weird baby voice during sex. I'm worried I'm not sexually attracted to him anymore. How do I turn this around and get my sexual desire back? Meowing and purring noises in bed is crazy. What was he doing differently at the beginning? Just not unleashing the meows and purrs? This one made me cringe so much that it hurt. Communicate this for sure. Worst case he's embarrassed for a little, but he needs to know and maybe it'll help him mature a little. Flushed. Tell him directly. Why have you tolerated this for 3 years? How? I'll let others address the communication issues here. I'm sure you'll get a lot of advice. But girl, not finishing from sex is not helping you at all. No wonder you feel like this. I know it's a band-aid on the problem, but what if you got yourself started beforehand with a vibrator etc., to the point where it would be impossible to not finish, or otherwise use a toy at the same time so you finish with him? I just feel like having orgasms would majorly help with your attraction issues and at least get the ball rolling on the rest of the hard work ahead of you. My boyfriend, M26, told me, F26, after being gone for a week he sold his house to his brother. Now what? My boyfriend M26 has had some hardships in the last few weeks. His 15-year-old lab passed. I cared for his dog. Ultimately he made the decision to end his pup's suffering. His brother called him immediately, told him now that his dog is dead he can get rid of his house and move in his 18-acre house he just bought. He can move his CNC business he built himself into his house too. He'll only charge him $600 for rent for 6 months. He told his brother no, he built a life here with me, his buddies from work and his business he started. A week later his grandpa died. He went to his hometown. His brother kept pressuring him, showing him where he could move his business, CNC machine too. He told me he was upset and almost left and said he felt like he was going to have to be a dick for his brother to understand he didn't want to move there. He went back up there for 6 days. We didn't talk much, we argued primarily because he said he'd get home Saturday and didn't really talk to me. He came home Tuesday, yesterday. He came home and told me he sold his house to his brother's business. He needs to move back home. This is 2 hours away. Where we live is 45 minutes from my family. He said his brother said I could move in. I don't want to do. He is saying he needs to be with his family. His brother and grandma. His mom lives in Gaw, we're in Northeast Ohio. He wants to move to Northwest Ohio. His brother told him he was going to lose his house for missing January's payment. I asked before a while ago and he said the letter from the bank was late fees. But he hasn't missed a payment besides then. His brother said he'd hire him at his business and he'll pay him $40,000 and only $600 a month in rent for a barn. His mortgage for his 3-bedroom house was $1,000. He's claiming this is what he wants, but before he left to go to his brother's for the week he said he couldn't wait to finally get married to me. Also I'm not working and I've been financially dependent on him. Too long did not read. My BF's brother has been pressuring him to selling his house, finally caved after dealing with grief and being gone for a week at said brother's house. He sold his house to his brother's business. He doesn't want to break up. Edit. My cousin told me to add last week I was offered 2 jobs. That is a recipe for disaster. Your boyfriend is going to be fully dependent on someone who is financially irresponsible. Both his home and his employment will depend on his brother, and the reason said brother was so adamant about him moving almost certainly was that he's so much behind in payment that the back was being unfriendly. Whether you go with him or not, get a job. Be sure that you're fine when all of this goes south. It's his house though. He can sell it. He does not need your approval to sell his property. First, never ever be financially dependent on anyone. Relationships change, health issues and even death can change your life in a heartbeat. Let him go unless you want to enmesh your life with his brother and be dependent on his life decisions. Wait, he's going to move his business 2 hours away? That's going to increase shipping costs for his current customer base. Ask boyfriend to sit down and plan this. If bro can't afford his life now, once your boyfriend is there, bro will lock onto him like a leech. Honestly, you need to figure a way out. I have a feeling your boyfriend is on a downward spiral, and he will take you down with him. Girl, let this guy go and start over. Your boyfriend has destroyed his financial security and he will also destroy yours if you follow him in this foolishness. Start working. He's not giving you a voice in these decisions. If that's how it is going to be, you need to prepare for the next one. I, 34 male, don't know how to interpret my fiancé's, 29 female, actions during pregnancy. I'm having a really hard time between differentiating between pregnancy hormones, anxiety or genuine red flags. Background. My fiancée is 6 months pregnant. We've been engaged since last summer. I unfortunately have a bad gut feeling about my fiancée and I can't tell if this is just me freaking out about being a new dad and being anxious. I have OCD tendencies, mixed with her pregnancy hormones. Or if my gut is telling me something real, OCD makes it hard sometimes. I've noticed a lot of things that by themselves are meaningless, but when I piece them together they seem to form an unfortunate picture. I've had no one to talk to about this all because if I'm wrong the last thing I want to do is ruin her image in friends or family's eyes. The last few months have been confusing for me, to say the least. This all started the month when she got pregnant. She came to me and said she went through my phone and was upset that I maintained a friendship with an old friend I had hooked up with in the past, before we were together obviously. I apologized and said that if it made her uncomfortable I'd end the friendship. The reason she said she went through my phone didn't stand up on its own, but figured it was insecurity and didn't want to embarrass her so I didn't even address it. But obviously looking back I'm now curious as to why she lied about why, when she went through my phone. She then tested on day 1 of her missed period, which is odd for her, claimed something in her head told her to test. Pretty immediately after finding out she was pregnant she became pretty emotionally distant. Saying things like, "It feels like I'm not in love with you anymore. Sometimes I wish I wasn't pregnant so I could get my relationship back." Chalked it up to hormones and was just focusing on being there for her. There was an instance or two she would say things like, "You're the best thing to happen to me. I don't deserve you. I can't lose you." Sometimes with tears. Again, hormones? We worked through things and things seemed to get better. Forward to April. Somehow we got on the topic on infidelity and she asked me some hypotheticals. They were extremely specific in past tense about getting too close to a coworker a few months ago, and then when I offered hypothetical forgiveness she said she doesn't think I could forgive infidelity. This is when my alarm bells started going off. Since then there's been comments almost like she feels like the relationship is on borrowed time. One time while laying in bed she began crying while looking at me and said, "I just don't want to forget this face." When talking about finances after the baby and her going back to work she said, "Also depends if you're staying or going," but almost like she didn't even realize she said it as she moved on. Then while talking about the beginning of our relationship she asked me, "Would you have gone out with me if I had a kid?" Flash forward to now we're going to OB appointments. Since we're not married I'll have to sign a paternity affidavit. Not a huge deal. Our doc mentioned our next appointment we'll sign some preliminary documents. I asked what documents and she, my fiancée, said, "The document where you don't want a paternity test," and then later in the appointment followed up, "You don't want a paternity test, right?" This all came crashing down for me when my own stepmom calls me up. Says she wants to talk to me about some concerning things my fiancé said to her while we were on vacation. I guess my fiancé was talking about how kid before marriage wasn't ideal and said, "I made some terrible choices in my life and this is the consequences," and then when discussing maybe applying for newborn benefits brought up a paternity affidavit and not needing a test again to my stepmom. My stepmom was concerned because, why would your fiancé be talking about this stuff? To top all this off, I've been on TRT for years now. My anxiety got the best of me and I got a sperm test done. It showed me very low, but not zero. My gut is telling me this kid might not be mine. I have no proof of anything, just these weird statements and vibes from my fiancé. I just don't even know what to think and how to handle this. Get a paternity test. Do not sign anything. Given everything you've written here, I fully believe she had cheated on you. Some women do get really weird during pregnancy, but this story just doesn't track. There is no reason for her to be asking you to sign an affidavit refusing to ever get a paternity test in the middle of the pregnancy. That's not pregnancy hormones, that's guilty conscience. Don't sign. Please get a paternity test. Your instincts are correct, she is saying some very bizarre and concerning things related to paternity and your relationship. Do not sign any kind of legal document without a paternity test. That's just common sense. You are potentially committing yourself to 18+ years of child support, so you need to make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. A paternity affidavit is a very big deal, so do not let this slide. I applaud your desire to support your partner, but make sure that you're not doing that at the potential cost to your future. Yeah, this is very concerning altogether. Name, all these things you've been saying for a while, name them, make me think you cheated on me. Did you? Stop dancing and just ask.